He was once everywhere. The Kool-Aid Man, that giant red pitcher smashing through walls with a booming "oh yeah," and was as recognizable as Ronald McDonald, Tony the Tiger, even Mickey Mouse. And yet, today, many kids are unfamiliar with who he even is. This was a character too big to ignore, a mascot so loud you could hear him coming before he arrived. So how could someone this massive just vanish into cultural silence? To understand his fall, we first have to remember how Kool-Aid itself became an empire. Here's the part that blows people's minds. At its peak, Kool-Aid was pulling in hundreds of millions in annual sales. Think about that. Hundreds of millions for little envelopes of flavored powder you had to mix with your own sugar at home. It wasn't just a drink. Kool-Aid was cheap, colorful, and everywhere. The kind of product that parents loved and kids couldn't resist. By 2011, it still held over 22% of the powdered drink mix market. And at the center of it all stood the mascot who made it iconic, the Kool-Aid Man. And to keep this empire growing, he had to become larger than life. The Kool-Aid Man wasn't content to just crash through your TV screen. No, he leveled up. He even had a limited Marvel comic series. Picture that, a corporate mascot stepping into the same world as Spider-Man and the Avengers. That's how deep he ran in America's imagination. He wasn't just a brand character, he was a superhero, a cultural icon, a force of childhood itself. But behind those bright colors and larger-than-life antics was something far more controversial. Because Kool-Aid was built on one ingredient that would come back to haunt it: sugar. Back then, parents thought they were being smart. Kool-Aid was cheaper than soda, lighter somehow, better. It was the responsible compromise, a splash of sweetness without the guilt of cracking open a can of Coke. It worked. Kool-Aid became the go-to drink for birthdays, picnics, and school events. The sugary safety net of the American household. But that comforting perception of healthier wasn't real. It was an illusion waiting to collapse. For kids, Kool-Aid wasn't just a drink. It was an experiment. You'd rip open the tiny paper packet, dump in the powder, then shovel in sugar until the mound felt endless, stirring the water, watching it glow into radioactive red or blue. It felt like magic. This was childhood alchemy. And for once, kids were in charge. They didn't just drink Kool-Aid, they created it, and that sense of power made the ritual unforgettable. But soon that same ritual would be painted as dangerous, almost sinister. Kool-Aid wasn't just consumed. It left its mark, staining tongues, lips, and smiles with neon badges of summer. Red mouths, blue teeth, kids running around like they'd been branded by fun itself. It became shorthand for carefree youth. Sugar, laughter, and sticky plastic cups on a hot day. A drink that defined childhood, the way popsicles or Saturday morning cartoons once did. But innocence doesn't last forever. Culture shifts, and what once symbolized joy often becomes the next target of blame. By the 1990s, the tide had turned. The same sugary powder that once felt harmless now looked like a weapon in America's growing health crisis. Nutritionists, doctors, and advocacy groups began pointing fingers, and Kool-Aid was suddenly on the list. It didn't matter that parents once saw it as better than soda. By the mid-90s, Kool-Aid was being lumped into the same bucket as Coke, Pepsi, and Mountain Dew. A cheap thrill, yes, but also a symbol of what was making kids sick. And suddenly, that smiling red pitcher didn't look so innocent anymore. Think about it. The Kool-Aid Man's trademark move was smashing through walls. Pure chaos. Pure destruction. In the sugar panic era, that kind of imagery felt uncomfortably on the nose. What once looked like fun could now be reframed as reckless, even dangerous. A pitcher of sugar water exploding into homes, tearing through walls, while America worried that sugar itself was tearing through its children's health. And just as Kool-Aid was being painted as a villain, an even darker shadow appeared, one that had nothing to do with sugar at all. Drinking the Kool-Aid. 3 words that have haunted the brand for decades. In the wake of Jonestown, the phrase became shorthand for blind loyalty and mass death. The tragedy killed over 900 people, and yet, here's the brutal irony. They didn't even drink Kool-Aid, it was Flavor Aid, but history misremembered, the wrong name stuck. How does a mascot built on joy, on childhood fun, fight an association with death? Now the pressure shifted to Kraft Heinz, the corporate parent. What do you do with a brand this radioactive? If you marketed Kool-Aid to kids, you risked being accused of predatory advertising. If you pivoted to parents, you were selling nostalgia wrapped in sugar. Every move was a minefield. And so, most of the time, the company did the only thing it could. Nothing. Meanwhile, children, the ones Kool-Aid was built for, were quietly moving on to other things. And here's the final blow. Even if Kool-Aid had dodged the sugar panic and the Jonestown stain, the culture around childhood itself was shifting. Backyard birthday parties got smaller. Saturday morning cartoons disappeared from TV. Kids spent more time indoors, more time online. The rituals that once made Kool-Aid powerful, the neon tongues, the DIY science experiment in a pitcher, began to vanish. What happens to a mascot built on innocence when innocence itself disappears? For all the criticism, let's be honest, the Kool-Aid Man was absurdly lovable. A giant glass pitcher with a grin, busting through walls like a suburban superhero, yelling that immortal, "Oh yeah, it was ridiculous. It was brilliant." His entrances were as iconic as Hulk smashes. A corporate mascot that somehow embodied pure chaos and joy at the same time. Kids didn't just drink Kool-Aid, they cheered for him like he was a rock star. But nostalgia can only carry a mascot so far. Think back. Blue tongues, red lips, neon stains on white t-shirts. Kool-Aid didn't just quench your thirst, it marked you. Those colors were like badges of honor, proof that you'd been part of the fun. Summer afternoons weren't complete without that sugar-stained smile. Kool-Aid wasn't just a drink, it was evidence of childhood itself. But what happens when parents stop buying the packets in the first place? In a way, the Kool-Aid Man was a meme before memes existed. His wall-smashing antics became punchlines, parodied on TV shows, cartoons, and eventually the early internet. Even if you hadn't seen a commercial in years, you still knew him. He lived on in jokes, in cultural shorthand, a kind of collective wink everyone got. But here's the problem. Being a punchline isn't the same thing as being a thriving brand. And so we're left with a strange paradox. How could something that embodied so much joy, so much absurdity, also become branded dangerous? That was Kool-Aid's curse. Fun versus harm, innocence versus guilt. A mascot designed to make kids laugh now stood as a reminder of everything parents were trying to avoid. And eventually it all came to a quiet, anticlimactic ending. Walk into a grocery store today and you'll find Kool-Aid packets hiding at the very bottom shelf. Not eye level, not a proud display, buried like an afterthought. It's a quiet demotion. Once a cultural giant, now often relegated to lower shelves, though Kraft continues to release new flavors, mix and match packs, and digital campaigns to keep it alive. People don't buy Kool-Aid because it leads trends. They buy it because it reminds them of summers that no longer exist. But that quiet demotion is only the surface. There's something bigger at play. Kraft Heinz faced a trap. Rebrand too aggressively, and they risked alienating loyalists. Stay too nostalgic, and Kool-Aid looked like a relic. Aim at kids again, and critics pounced, calling it tone-deaf, even dangerous. The Kool-Aid Man, once unstoppable, was now paralyzed by the very culture he had helped define. He couldn't move without backlash. He couldn't stay still without disappearing. And that cultural trap reveals the final paradox of the Kool-Aid Man. Here was a mascot designed for laughter, but he carried a shadow he never asked for. Childhood joy on one side, the specter of mass tragedy on the other. No other brand icon in America bore that kind of split identity. Oh yeah meant smashing through drywall in one context, but whispered something far darker in another, a single character embodying both fun and fear. Could any mascot survive carrying that weight? For adults, the Kool-Aid Man still sparks a smile. He's a memory, a throwback, a flash of neon childhood. But for kids today, he's far less central. He exists more as internet irony than as a living cultural force, a meme, not a movement. His legacy is suspended in time, caught between what he once was and what he can never become again, which leaves us staring at one uncomfortable realization. Maybe the Kool-Aid Man didn't just fade away. Maybe America outgrew him. His gleeful chaos, that reckless, sugar-fueled joy, once felt irresistible. But in a culture obsessed with safety, health, and caution, there's little room for a mascot who literally explodes through walls. He wasn't defeated. He was sidelined even as Kraft tries to innovate to keep him relevant. And so the real answer to what happened to the Kool-Aid Man may not lie in him at all. It may lie in what happened to us. Maybe the Kool-Aid Man wasn't the one who changed. Maybe it was us. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Do you think America could ever embrace a mascot as reckless and chaotic as the Kool-Aid Man again? Or have we outgrown that kind of joy for good? If this story made you think, I'd love to hear your take in the comments. And if you want more deep dives into the strange lives of brands and icons, hit subscribe and give this video a like. It helps me bring you more stories like this. And if you want to keep going right now, check out my last video, the $2,000 vacuum they sold at your door. The story of how Kirby turned cleaning into a cult-like empire.